Want to thank everybody, first of all, for jumping in and joining us. This is a series that obviously is necessitated by the fact that the world is upside down, and we're just hoping everybody is okay and staying safe. It's funny, last time I saw Mick, he was getting on the bus in Vegas, heading back to LA, and both of us kind of looked at each other like, well, we'll figure it out. I'm sure we'll get in to be part of March Madness because there's nobody hotter in the country than the Bruins right now. And we'll see each other in a few days, and blah, blah. It didn't quite work out that way. So here we are. And Mick, first of all, how are you since the last time we spoke? You, family, everybody's okay, I trust?
Everybody good. I think there's a lot of other people struggling in our country, so I don't complain. Encino's a beautiful place. It's not Solana Beach, but not Solana Beach, man, by any stretch. So if you see me creeping around your backyard with sandals on, that means I needed to get down there. So, but no, everything's good. Probably the hardest thing for me, my dad loves to come out and visit. So, he's 78, so not being able to put him on don't feel comfortable putting him on the plane just quite yet.
Right. That's smart. Well, listen, we've got, thanks to our, I guess, donors and fans and everybody who's on here, and I was not aware of this till yesterday. We actually reached out and asked for some people to give us their questions because, normally I would just go off the top of my head and that doesn't usually go well. So now we've left it to better people. For example, a Bill W. Can you speak about next year's Gloucester coach and your impression of the new AD? I don't think Bill W. wants you to literally give us an impression of the new AD unless you know him very well and are able to do that. But Bill W., also here in San Diego, thanks very much for watching. You're a very
great.
Tall, very learned man, Bill W. So what can you tell Bill W., Coach?
Well, the interesting thing is, I've seen Jalen Clark play and got to know he and his family. So, our two new players, and obviously Kenneth Nuba redshirted, so I could see him every day in practice. But, as far as Johnny Juzang, that's the wildest deal. I still haven't seen him. And we could walk to each other's house. And, everybody's doing the quarantine walks, walking X amount of miles. We can walk to each other's house. It's absolutely nuts. And I still haven't seen Johnny in person, but it's right now, as far as next year's team, look, we're just looking forward to getting back in the gym. It's probably the furthest thing from my mind is what our team's going to look like next year. We're still recruiting actively. Some of it obviously is well documented, some of it's not. But at the end of the day, for me right now, my focus has been just so much on this year's team, and getting them through the spring quarter academically. When you're running a basketball program and you have a lot of, imagine a former player like a Bill Walton, and you're trying to make sure he does. Stays out of trouble and goes to class, but you're in quarantine. So you got guys out here. We're trying to run our programs all across America when we can't see our kids other than a Zoom meeting. So for the quarter schools, it's harder because we're still in the spring quarter. I mean, the whole spring quarter for us at UCLA has academically it's been a challenge. You're trying to stay on top of your guys. Our academic people at UCLA, they have not had a day off, for us. So all the people in Christina Rivera's department under academics, it's been a very trying time for them, I can assure you, because, they're trying to stay on top of all the athletes and their eligibility. Can't meet with them in person.
Right.
Can't meet them in person. We're trying to do everything off of Zoom. So it's just been tough. That part of it is really where my focus has been. As far as next year's team, I'd love for us to be able to score a lot of points. I know Bill W. is a big fan of that. He always talks about, and I agree with him. You got to play defense to have a chance, but you're never going to win a title if you can't score. And I wholeheartedly agree with him. So I think, we'll be our experience should help us next year. where that was, as you know, our detriment this year. We had extreme amount of inexperience.
Right.
And a lot of that will depend on, Chris Smith's status. Is he back with us? To have a guy that could be preseason Pac-12 Player of the Year. If he's with us, you get experience. But if not, we got a lot of candidates. Hopefully that will step up. No matter what happens, you still get to put 5 guys out there. So we're going to have more experience. I think that will be the different theme from last year to this year.
Right.
Is how our roster is going to look and our experience. So it should really help us.
I'm pondering college Bill W on quarantine, and I've got so many thoughts on that right now. Here's one from Mike P. Well, we can say his name. Mike Pruitt has asked you regarding the Zoom calls, because this is how we're all communicating now. He saw you had a special guest the other day. We'll give initials there, KAJ, or I guess LA in prior years. But that Kareem showed up. How cool was that?
Yeah, probably. Well, first of all, I'm going to answer. I know Bill W. from San Diego mentioned our new athletic director, which I've talked to quite a bit, a lot of text. And I've just reached out with Martin on, basically how can I help him? You're talking about moving to Los Angeles. I did it last year. So I just went through it. So I can help him in that regard. As far as our program, the job, everything, until he gets here, that stuff's on hold. He's a veteran. He's a really good guy. He's got great energy. We just need to support him and help him with his transition, all of us, because that's going to be, with you're trying to move during a pandemic. Can you imagine taking a job right now? It's not like you jumping on planes and flying around trying to go look at homes. So I'm trying to help him in that regard. I told him, he don't have to worry about basketball, right? We're in good shape. We're working at it every day. Basically, how can I help him? But he's been great. He played for Jerry Wainwright at UNC Wilmington. He's a mentor of mine. So we have a very close connection.
Guys, go ahead, Mick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, good. Coach Wainwright's a legendary guy in the basketball world. So, Martin's got some. We both got Jerry Wainwright stories. But so anyway, that's so I'm excited about about Martin joining us and just helping him get comfortable, because obviously I just went through it. So hopefully I can be a resource for him to help his transition.
Just to reset a little bit, we've got Colleen and Gregor, a few people here. I'm going to kind of morph a bunch of questions into one. It all basically talks about how last year was ending on such a high note. I mean, you guys were a Jonah Matthews 27-footer away from having a 9-game winning streak going into that Pac-12 tournament. You were going to play Cal. You had all the momentum in the world. I mean, so many things were going right. Cody Riley coming on. Jalen Hill coming on. Jaime Jaquez had kind of been a constant all year. Tiger Campbell, obviously, coming on. Jake Hyman, all these guys, the arrow was pointed up. I mean, like a big vertical arrow straight up. So I want to take you back to that, because I know that was now incredibly only 9 weeks ago. Feels like 9 months ago. It was 9 weeks ago. But not to project. I mean, it's fun to think about, could you guys have gone to the Sweet 16 and make some noise and all that. But I know for a fact that you were so happy with the buy-in and the improvement from all those guys towards the end of last year.
Yeah, obviously I've done a lot of these interviews nationally since it all started with turning our season around, and then since the season's ended, everybody needs content, so everybody wants you to do an interview. It's like we had 2 seasons. I mean, it really is. You were a part of it, so I don't know if I'll ever experience anything like it again. We went from I'm coming home in massive depression. How are we going to win a game? To we couldn't lose a game. I mean, literally, you're winning on the road by double figures against great coaches, and great teams, and sold-out arenas like Arizona and Colorado. I'm walking with Alex Timrose to do an interview with you after the game, and I'm looking at Alex. We're laughing. I'm like, a month ago, I was one step from the Coronado Bridge, and now we can't lose. I mean, It's hard to describe. So, I think it's just a lot. I believe this, Josh. You got to give a lot of credit to our players. They just, it's hard for people on the outside to really understand how hard you have to play mentally to stay focused on details, and to be able to, your conditioning, your mental conditioning and your physical conditioning, to me was the difference. It was never buy-in. It was never a bad attitude. It was just, we weren't in mental and physical condition to be able to play 40 minutes of basketball to beat quality teams. And once we got our mental and physical conditioning there, we were able to do it. And then when you get your mental and physical conditioning up to the way to play at the high level, then your skill level starts to show and be more exposed. And you say, Jake's making shots, Jaime's making plays, Tiger is dominating games with the assist, not turning the ball over. Not turning the ball over for the whole second half at Colorado. That's impossible. But that is conditioning. So like when you hear Bill W. from San Diego talk about Coach Wooden, and the secret sauce of conditioning, it's mental, not just physical. To be able to have that toughness mentally to play winning basketball, because it almost is like a tennis match and you're volleying back and forth and who's going to break first and hit it into the net. And you would hear me talk all the time, Josh, about like building having enough will to impose your will on your opponent. It's just another way of saying the same thing. Who's going to break first? And usually the younger team, mentally weak, physically not in condition, breaks first. That's what changed for us. And it took time. We had to go through all that to become the team we became. But it was a wild ride, buddy. I'm telling you, it was fun at the end. It was just tragic the way it ended. But obviously there's things more important in basketball.
But to your point, I mean, freshmen basically went in and spoiled senior days at places where you're not supposed to win, no matter what you got. I mean, that's to me the coolest part. Yeah. I'm going to, again, Coach, I'm going to smash a couple questions together again. Brent A. says, Coach, you've done an amazing job of changing the mindset and level of toughness of the players. What are some of the drills and techniques you added to increase toughness? And Alec W. says, what do you consider to be a successful practice session? Because I think it's an interesting topic.
All right, so you're going to have to help me with these repeats, because I feel bad because we skipped over the question about Kareem.
Oh, yeah, we'll go back. Right.
So real quick, that was for my staff, really for the staff, because, we all grew up watching him. The players weren't born yet. One of the coolest nights of our lives. Now, for me, it's different because one of the neatest things about being the coach at UCLA is that I have, certain guys are friends. I can tell Bill Walton's a friend of mine. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and I have a relationship. Like, you know how neat that is? Like, it's unbelievable. Yeah. Mike Warren has become a very good friend of mine. He lives out here in the valley in Woodland Hills by me, not far from Encino. So just all that. But Kareem was just awesome, man. The neat part of it was Jalen Clark and some of the other players said their parents, when they heard, because you're on Zoom, we can only see each other.
Right.
The parents could be sitting on the couch. So they said when their parents heard Kareem, when he came into the call and said Kareem's on this call answering questions, parents were running into the room, putting their ear up to the phone, because obviously, if you're, Neil Clark, like, Jalen's dad, he's back east, Kareem's his idol, so right. It was, and then we were making fun of some of the guys because they were nervous about asking questions, but they were starstruck. I mean, they were like, Coach, man, you're just sitting there rapping with Kareem like he's your buddy. We're starstruck. I said, it took me about a year to get over to get there too. So anyway, what was our next one? So I don't want to miss that.
Well, no, and I'm glad you went back. And it's funny because literally last night, my wife and I rented Airplane to watch just because we needed a laugh, and there was but the practice questions about what do you consider to be a successful practice?
That's the easiest question I'm going to get today. Okay. The most successful practice you can have is when nobody gets injured.
Yeah.
Trust me as a head coach, it's Coaching, you got a better chance to win if your best players are all playing. So, our worst practice of the year was right before the last 5 minutes of practice before Arizona State's road game. Jalen Hill went down. So that's the worst thing that can happen in a practice. So, but, I think you got to get better. I mean, the real answer is, I don't remember who said this, but in practice, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. I'm not a big believer in naming captains because I think that leadership is the responsibility of every guy on the team, because you're either leading people in the right direction by your buy-in, your voice, your effort, your attitude, or your silence is leading people in the wrong direction. Your lack of hustle, you don't have to say anything negative, but leadership comes from every guy on the team. I think it's the responsibility of every player on the team. So when all those things, there's so many things that go on in a practice to me that are important to where your team is getting better. You might make a shot that day, but you could get a whole lot better just by the guys learning how to treat each other, learning how to practice. Especially in your first year that I was in, there was we spent months just getting to the point where we knew how to treat each other, how to practice, how to go hard all the time. So, the question about, did we change any stuff? I think what I would give my assistant coaches a lot of credit, we were trying a lot of different things early in the season. And I can't remember, one where we're all, like I said, we're all one turn away from the Coronado Bridge. We just decided that we needed to just play one defense and get really good at it, because it was our guys they couldn't handle some of the multiples. They were trying, but it was almost, they were struggling with it. So it was like, let's simplify and get really good at one defense. And so from that point on, it was like, okay, then we got to really get good at that. And just so we changed practices to just get really good at our half-court man-to-man, and not being able to do some of the other stuff that I had always done at Cincinnati. Was highly successful doing it, but we had to scrap some of it. I think as a coach, you got to forget what you want to do, figure out what your players can be good at. And, you got to – the only way you're going to consider – that's my background from my dad as a high school coach, because, you got to coach whoever walks into the gym, whoever enrolls in the school. So some years you play this defense, some years that, some years your offense has got – you depending on who your better players are that enroll in your school, adjustments are essential to being good every year. Some teams may be good pressing teams. Some teams may be good zone teams. So I'm not a my way guy. I like to win. But my coaching staff did a great job with the suggestions and the adjustments that we had to do with that.
So as a quick follow-up, Mick, now that there's a year or two of the Mick Cronin era and you're bringing back a lot of these same guys, do you try again with some of that stuff? Do you recircle and try to land the plane again?
Well, I would tell you that, one thing, pressing, pressure defense and trying to press is in my DNA. So, it's something I think, even if we always practice, because it teaches guys how to play hard. It builds their conditioning, their mental toughness, and you're never always going to be ahead. So I think that you need that when you have to, when you have to employ the press, it can't be totally foreign. Like to me, you see some teams when they have to press, you can tell they've never worked on it. They have no chance. Versus when we had to, we didn't beat North Carolina, but when we were behind and we put it on, it was obvious that we practiced it. But I'd love to be able to do some sort of consistent pressing. It was just tough when my two guards our two guards missed a year and 6 months, and they weren't in the greatest shape in the world to be able to be at the front of a press. So, and they're all young, so our mental toughness wasn't there to impose a pressing will on our opponents. So I'd love to be able to. We'll definitely try. But again, I think you have to adjust based on personnel. and see, I think that's the most important thing, and figure out what that team in particular can be good at. But pressing and pressure defense does solve the questions that we'll probably get on playing time. Because when guys are playing really hard, they're going to need a second guy to come in, because the game isn't it isn't the 70s. The game is a high speed game nowadays. So you got to be able to put a fresh guy in there. Guys are going to get a lot more fatigued in 2020 at the pace the game is played at, especially if you're playing pressure defense.
As deep a dive as you've done, Coach, into the legacy of John Wooden, I think UCLA fans appreciate that a lot. I mean, for example, you reached out and the breakfast spot in Tarzana that, was in trouble. You were the first one to try to rally some support to keep it open, so, and you did that because of Coach. But when you read all the books, when you talk to all the people that knew Coach Wooden, I got a lot of questions here that are basically variations on the theme that what do you take out of having access, even though he's long gone now, but his spirit lives on. So to have access to his mind and his legacy, how does that affect you?
Well, I would say, from having a lot, being here now, having quarantine time to, read a lot of books on Coach Wooden. I would say, there's Coach Wooden that I've tried to learn about, study for the basketball coach. And how can that help? How can it make you a better coach? And then the other side of it, I think, this Coach Wooden's legacy of his retirement, the from 76 on, Coach Wooden, and what he meant to UCLA and the community. And that's a whole different person that had a major impact on our country, thousands and thousands of coaches. From the books, The Pyramid of Success. And so there's two different people, there's almost two different people that you're reading and studying. Because when from the basketball side of it, the thing that fascinates me the most is, the pressure that he was under. And he knew once he won a title, how that pressure was going to he knew when he was able to sign Kareem out of Power Memorial. In Seth Davis's book, he understood what was going to follow. That that if anybody got that type of, it would have been the equivalent of getting LeBron James if he would have went to college. You're going to be expected to win the title for 1 year because he'd have been going. But with Kareem, it was going to be 3 years. That you're just expected to win the title, and that pressure is real. Probably the difference now is we're paid so well for it. Back then you weren't. It just wasn't reality back then. So his Coach Wooden's life as a coach fascinates me the most, and everything that went on coaching in the civil rights movement in that era, being a history major, and the stuff that was going on around and with young people and activism. And here you are, a buttoned-up disciplinarian coach trying to continue to win national championships, and the Watts riots are going on. The stuff that was going on in the South. Obviously, Harlem riots, Detroit. Just everything that was going on in our country was a powder keg. Then here you have this guy running this program that's like a machine every year. And I just can't imagine, in reading the books, you really felt it. But I just can't imagine being a part like that he lived that, and how stressful that must have been for him.
Yeah.
Which probably led to it's just something, everybody doesn't do. There's very few of us that have this job. How many people coach at the high level in basketball and understand these things? And I get it. We make plenty of money, but we are human. So, learning that human side of the journey that he went on was fascinating to me. Just trying to win every year, and the expectation level just got way out of control, and that was extremely hard on him, and that but the way he was able to keep getting through it, and thank goodness he was able to keep his health.
Yeah, exactly.
Through all the pressure of trying to do all the, trying to, win a title every year, or it's a bad season. I mean, just unbelievably high stress. Can you imagine the stress?
Right. And then being able to actually get out and get it done year after year too.
And without the zeros on the end of his deal.
Yeah, right.
Just amazing. But then, but I think that the gift to the rest of us was all, post Coach Wooden post retirement.
Yeah.
Of training of the minds of what coaching should all be about, and what, just what sport should be about.
You mentioned, Mick, the recruitment of Kareem, then Lou Alcindor at Power Memorial. You didn't get to recruit that guy or Bill W. from San Diego. But we got a bunch of questions wondering, what qualities do you look for in a potential recruit? Do you have a specific recruiting philosophy?
Well, I think the biggest thing, because, for people that are outside that are with us, in recruiting, you can't immediately assume, well, why aren't we recruiting this guy? Well, he may have no interest, or we may have too many people at his position. And that's what, in our instance, we have so many young guys on the wing that, even as much like Johnny's a great kid. Johnny wanted to come home, go to UCLA, but it was, coach how are we going to play? So, with pressing and running and, a spread offense, so we can get everybody enough opportunity on the wing. And then, so that's a factor. Today's recruit knows your roster inside and out. And, everybody's a click away, or I should say now a touch away on your touch screen. Click is all. But everybody's a touch screen away from knowing everything about your roster. So it's not that you couldn't recruit certain guys. It's they're looking for maybe a place where they can just go in and start and, lead the team in field goal attempts. So that's part of. So don't think that people aren't being recruited. It just may not be the right fit. But I think talent is the most important thing, because that's why you're going to watch a recruit. If he doesn't have he's got to have the skill level, the talent level. And then the second thing would be, what type of person is he and his family? What are they looking for? An experience that's about winning? Are they looking for an experience about where they can grow as a person? Do we have similar beliefs in what the college experience should look like, even if it's only for a year? How to help each other all have success. So, it would be talent one, character two.
Okay, that's fair enough. We got a few more minutes together, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time. I'm curious, over your left shoulder, that's either a golf club, a banjo, a pool cue. I'm just curious, what else is happening at the Cronin household right now?
That is a leather guitar case from when I won Coach of the Year one year. They gave me this Gibson guitar that's over here that obviously I can't play.
Well, that was the follow-up question, yeah.
But my name's on it. But when Sammy was young, and I won Coach of the Year one year, and the Gibson guitar's in Memphis. But anyway, it's a pointless story. But I used to mess with her and say, "Oh yeah, Dad, I'm learning. I learned how to play the guitar. I took lessons." She was really young, so. But she even if I couldn't trick her at like 5 years old, she knew I was full of it then.
Oh, well, here's one to test how full of it you are, because Jim S. wants to know, if you took 10 3-pointers from the top of the key, how many would you make out of 10?
Am I warming up, Jim? Can I get loose?
I'm going to say you can stretch a little, but then you got to go out and bang in as many as 10.
Yeah. I mean, I would say 10 years ago, Jim, the answer was 10 for 10. 10 years ago, and I was 38. Since then, I'm going to go 6 for 10. Mike Lewis will go 10 for 10. He's the young guy on the staff still. I catch him shooting around after practice. I'm more worried. I'm worried about making 10-foot putts, not 22-foot jumpers.
Well, I'll tell you what.
There was a time 10 years ago, 10 for 10.
from press row, I get Tracy Murray out there. You get Mike Davis out there, and we'll see who blinks first.
Oh, Mike Lewis. Yeah, no, Mike's not going to miss. Now, he outshoots our guys. I watch him messing around after practice.
Wow. We talk about former players, by the way, and a couple of people have asked, Coach, how's it coming just with getting former players involved, keeping them involved? And I guess what's the tipping point? I mean, ideally, you want everybody in the pool, right? I mean, but there's after a while, there's no elbow room to, everybody gets a voice, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's a cacophony, right? I mean, if everybody's got a different idea of what the program's supposed to look like. So how does that work? How's that coming along, kind of getting everybody unified?
I think, well, first of all, I tell guys all the time, like I said earlier, Mike Warren and I are buddies, and he laughs like, we have a real relationship, which I appreciate. And I told him right away, I said, hey, look, I get it. I'm going to do things as a coach you're not going to agree with. And that's what I love about Mike. He speaks his mind. I have great respect for him for that, and for Kareem for being who they are. But so guys hey, look, when you get a bunch of guys in a room that played and coached basketball at all levels, everybody thinks everybody's going to have an opinion. So I tell guys, look, I get it, but support the Bruins ultimately. Because trust me, I second guess myself as soon as the game's over. You know that. Yeah. I blame myself for every loss. I don't sleep. I think that's the only way you can get better is self-analysis. So I have no problem with that. But unifying us as a Bruin community and family that helps recruiting and makes our program more attractive. So we all get the ultimate goal of winning. I was like at Cincinnati, I would say when I left, I said, hey, I want to thank everybody, especially the people that maybe didn't think I did a great job coaching, because you still came to the games. You still supported the team. That's the most important thing. Hell, I don't think I'm a very good coach sometimes. So, but the former players, they're going to have opinions, Josh. They played. I mean, that's what makes it interesting for them. So if I get second guessed, you can't be thin skinned. I mean, I'd be second guessing them if they were coaching. So there's nothing wrong with that. So we have an unbelievable former player base. Alex get mad at me for saying, he doesn't like us saying that word former, because you're always a Bruin. So I love the fact that they care. And even if their opinion isn't positive, just the fact that they care and support the team. I said, look, second guess me, support the kids, support the players, because it's tough on them, especially this day and age of social media. So, and you just can't get to everybody, Josh. That's my biggest thing. I want my message is please, we want you around, and the doors are open, but I can't be best friends with 500 guys. There's just only so much time in the day, especially, when for every recruit, they have 4 or 5 people you have to call around the recruit. There's only so many hours in the day, but you just want guys to know that they're appreciated. I think that's the most, and that the doors are open to them. And that's what I've tried to do. And even with that, you're not always going to go 100%, buddy.
Well, it's a great answer. And I will say this, Coach, because, I go back to me, low ebb, I'm sure you'd agree. December 28th, there wasn't a person walking out of that gym that thought, there goes the Pac-12 Coach of the Year after Cal State Fullerton won that game, at the end of December. But maybe it's a metaphor for what we're all going through right now. 2020 started out horribly. From what happened at the end of January, we're up there in Eugene. We get the horrible news about Kobe, and one of the worst days for everybody. And then then it got worse from there somehow. But in the thick of all of that, you guys, I think, proved. And you, the coaching staff, the players. It's a cliche to say it's not how you start, it's how you finish. But I think there's a very real truth in that. And then you guys went from losing at home to Cal State Fullerton, and everybody grumbling on their way out of Pauley that day, losing to Stanford the way you lost, and then bang, things started to change. Everybody's getting a little bit happy. Everybody's getting better. And sure enough, there's UCLA ready to pounce into UCLA again. And in a weird way, what I'm kind of hoping is everybody in LA, everybody in the Bruins community will look at that small example as what can happen when you just kind of stay positive and believe a little bit. Because 2020, let's face it, kind of sucks so far. But your attitude's amazing. The kids that I've talked to, and we had Jules Bernard on and David Singleton the other day, two of the nicest human beings you're ever going to want to come across. Right? I mean, you get to coach these guys, so you're coaching skill, but you're coaching positivity too. And I guess I just want to say thank you for doing that.
No, buddy, I appreciate it. I'm son of a high school coach, so he didn't coach for money. You're trying to impact young lives. I think the most important thing that you talked about is you realize the power of staying together.
Right.
And you always have a choice on how you're going to react to a situation. And you can choose to blame others. You can choose to get better. And sometimes it's crazy, in basketball is not like football where power wins out and there's 5 teams that have a chance to win the national championship probably, and that's it. Our game is so wild because of three-point shooting that, there were times where I was thinking, what did I do? What I do to this? Does anybody ever miss a shot against us? Even Bill Walton said, he's like, can you believe how good Fullerton played against you? And that's a credit to their players and Dedrick Taylor. It's not as mad as you are and you're watching. It's like every mistake you make, they made the shot. Stanford, same thing. Now, the same Stanford team that couldn't score against Cal in the Pac-12 tournament, the last game that was played in the Pac-12 this year, the same team couldn't make a basket, couldn't miss in Pauley Pavilion. Right. So, and it's not what you learn as a coach, and it's wild, the ups and downs. You have to have enough fortitude to do what's right, keep teaching, keep coaching, and it's a metaphor for the guys because their lives aren't always going to be peaches and cream. That you got to try to teach kids to define success for themselves, not let others define it for them. It's in my job, the hardest thing is, everybody defines success of a basketball player at UCLA or at any school in the top 40 or 50 of making the NBA. It's unfair. You're a 3% do it. And you have to try to help young people get through that. I'm doing my best. I play at UCLA where we win. We almost won the Pac-12. I give great effort. I'm a good guy. I'm doing great in school. Like, I'm a success. But society comes at them with, well, if you're not on an NBA draft board, you're a failure. That's the hardest part of our job. And it's unfair to our players. So as I'm viewed as this tougher guy, I'm intense because I'm an Irish idiot. But I'm vehemently, literally almost violently protective of what our guys go through because it's extremely unfair. The pressures they face because you are not a failure if you don't play in the NBA. You are normal, actually. The abnormal is the NBA. If you have a real, are you trying to say that, certain guys like Andy Hill's not successful? And the guy was president of the CBS. He went to UCLA, didn't get in, got his degree. How many people are president of CBS? But in today, this is what our guys face, Josh, what all high-level players face. So you have to try to make sure those guys know, hey, buddy, Jules Bernard, like you've become our best defender. We're winning games because of you. So like that night when we beat Utah, it was great that we won. I was so happy for him personally because how well he wants to do. He works so hard. He gives up his body more than anybody in our team. Our guys will laugh because, we call him Crash in practice because he's always run into people. But no matter how big of a fall he takes, he never would sub out of practice. So, but he wants to do even better than he was doing. So when he has that big night, you're so happy for him. So that's those are the things about coaching that because I know I'm with these guys, Josh. I know what they're going through. I know the pressures they're under. It's very real for our players.
Well, in every sense of the word, you were Coach of the Year. I'm sorry we don't have another guitar to hand you for that, but it looks like you're covered behind you there. But continued success to you, Coach. I know these are weird somewhat awful times, but you're doing an amazing job of keeping everybody together and pointed towards something happy. And God willing, we'll all be together soon. Don't know what exactly it's going to look like, but we'll have some basketball. We'll win some games. We'll have a good time and turn out some more great citizens into our country here. So on behalf of everybody on this call, thank you.
It's all going to be okay. We all got to hang in there and stay positive. I think I'm a big believer in it. Like I said earlier, it's not what's going on, it's how we react to it.
Right.
And, maybe it's a message that we all need to treat each other better, that good health and Mother Earth is not something that's promised. We need to be thankful for it and take care of it better, take care of each other better. And, it's obviously terribly unfortunate what the virus, has killed 100,000 people. But, how are we going to react to it? So it's all going to be good. I think, hopefully before when this is over someday, it'll be a better place maybe where there's a lot more humanity and caring about humanity, hopefully, in our society, and be a better place for my daughter and, young people. So just everybody stay positive out there. The Bruins will be back. And we'll all be back in Westwood. I miss Westwood. I know that.
Westwood misses you too. And by the way, Bill W. from San Diego, I'm sure would say thank you for referencing Mother Earth on the way off.
That's where I got it from.
Coach, stay positive. Stay yourself. We'll see you soon. Thanks for everything.
Buddy, take care.
All right, man. Thanks for everybody for being on the call. Bye-bye.